Welcome to NYNJPA Weather. I'm meteorologist Stephen DiMartino, here to take you through all the wacky weather that impacts the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan areas. So let's see what's going on out there. Good morning and welcome to another video of NYNJPA Weather. Okay, let's look at the 500 millibar pattern first. This is from the Penn State website, a great website. And notice that the NAM was pretty much right on the mark with this 500 millibar pattern. We have a nice upper level low off of California, an impressive ridge over the Rockies, and of course we have our sharp trough that's moving through the Great Lakes and currently driving towards the East Coast. Notice there's plenty of PVA, a nice Vort Max over the Ohio Valley. And as a result, as we look at the water vapor over here, notice we have our disturbance that's driving through the Ohio Valley, and we're already starting to see clouds form and precipitation begin to develop off of the Virginia coast. This is the water vapor image, and you can see that the storm's starting to develop. Notice there's a little bit of kick in the cloud formation and the water vapor that's developing off the coast here. Now, when we look at the surface map, this is from the National Weather Service. Notice we have our clipper that's moving through the Great Lakes and it's transferring its energy on towards the coast. Notice that a low pressure is already starting to develop. This low pressure will rapidly develop and move to the east-northeast and bring some light snow to southern New Jersey. I'm thinking 2 to 3 inches. Someone could get 4 inches out of this, most likely around Cape May County. Now, let's move towards Wednesday, because there is blocking that is starting to develop over the North Atlantic, but there's a difference in where this blocking is forming. What's happening is that this low pressure system during the weekend, which could bring some light snow once again to southern New Jersey, will rapidly develop and deepen off of the East Coast. And as a result, a strong upper level low will form off of the New England coast. As a result, you get this strong ridge that's to the south of Greenland. Now, why is that important? Well, the reason why that's important is that this whole blocking scheme, although it is North Atlantic blocking, is positioned in completely the wrong area. You want this upper level low up more towards the Canadian Maritimes, and you want this ridge to the south of Greenland or right over Greenland, and therefore your storm track, instead of cutting up towards the Great Lakes, cuts up towards the East Coast. I drew this black line here in that this blocking is kind of like a fence, and it's forcing any low pressure that develops over the plains to track towards the Great Lakes. Thus, the cold front that we are expecting on Wednesday is going to be just a rainmaker with basically temperatures above freezing and not much chance of any snowfall out of the system. However, there is hope. The fact that North Atlantic blocking did develop and is being supported leads me to believe that further possibilities of blocking will continue to develop through February, and look at what we have here on February 2nd. We have a weak blocking scheme setting up. Now it's weak, but it's there. You have a nice trough or developing upper level low over the Canadian Maritimes and over northeast Quebec. You have a nice ridge that's over southern Canada, over southern Greenland, and as a result, this setup produces convergence and confluence over southern Quebec, and as a result, you get your high pressure that's sitting over northern New York and parts of New England. In the meantime, instead of the storm track being forced into the Great Lakes, this blocking scheme allows a low pressure to develop in the Gulf of Mexico, track towards the Tennessee Valley, and eventually at some point redevelop off the East Coast. How and when it redevelops is still in question at this time. However, the point is that there's a better risk of at least some sort of snow event along the East Coast heading in towards Super Bowl weekend. So you Giant fans, not only will you have a great game to look forward to, but also possibly a snowstorm. I think the best chance, though, is towards the interior right now. Notice also at the surface map you have your low pressure system that on Friday night that is developing over the southeast. You have your banana ridge over the mid-Atlantic and northeast, funneling in fresh cold air. So at the very least, you'll be starting off with cold air. Next, I just want to take a step back and look at the entire northern hemisphere and notice that our Pacific jet, which is zonal in this picture right here, notice that the developments are starting to pick up here. We have a nice trough that's sitting to the south of Russia and east of Japan, and a ridge is starting to develop, and moving towards the Aleutians. Now, in this type of pattern, what you get is a zonal flow, and therefore, generally, temperatures near to above normal over much of the United States, because there is no, drive of cold air or even drive of warm air. There's nothing to support a significant amplification. However, just 24 hours later, look at the progression of the trough. You have a trough that's progressing towards the Aleutians. You have a ridge that's moving from basically, the Bering Strait towards the Gulf of Alaska. The point is the progression is towards a colder pattern once again, and a stormier one at that. At the same time, over the Atlantic, you're seeing again better support for blocking and a negative NAO. At this point, what you have is a ridge that's developing over eastern Greenland, and it's not conducive yet for what we want for snowstorms. However, the point is that we're getting towards that point, and it looks like the stratospheric warming we've been talking about is starting to do its work. The Pacific is more conducive, and things are going to look a lot more fun. Well, that's it for today. I'll keep on updating on the potential for these storms.